This actually bothers me quite a lot, and it bothered me when I worked in clinic as well, is that I feel most clinics are getting hung up on the idea that they need an agency to fill their clinic. But there are three things that are inherently wrong with that and why you should not use an agency to grow your clinic. And I'm going to show you what those three things are and how Rich used it to add 54 new patients in his first month without using an agency. And if you don't know me, my name's Elliot. I'm a former marketing manager in several successful multi-million dollar clinics. Now I work with clinics across the world to show them how to not use an agency and instead implement a flywheel to get more patients. Okay, so let's go through the three things that an agency does wrong, which keeps you stuck in this agency cycle forevermore. Let me just explain that agency, why I call it the agency trap. So first off, you have, let's write agency trap. So first off, you have agency number one. They sound great. So you're excited to work with them, you start working with them, you get results, and then like the first 30 days come around, results fall off a cliff. Everyone's been there. The agency don't know what to do, you don't know what to do, so then you end up telling the agency different things that they should be trying. So then what happens after that? You think, maybe I got bad agency. You go to agency number two. Same thing happens again. This time, maybe you've gone to them and because they're an MSK specific one. So you're like, great, they're going to understand me. They understand compliancy issues. If that works with the GCC, if it's APRA compliant, like whatever it is. But same thing happens. Maybe you just feel like you're part of a cookie cutter type approach and what you actually get from them. So you decide to bin them off because it's very expensive and the cost per result that you need to get just to be able to, or the number of leads that you need to be able to get, just to equate for their like $2,000 per month price tag means that you would need to get so many more people in the door just to pay for that. Plus then you got to do ad spend, plus then you got to pay for practitioners and everything else. That doesn't seem worth it. So you think, cool, let me try doing it myself. It can't be that hard. Surely I'm a doctor, whatever it is. And yes, you're exactly right. But once you start doing it, you're like, maybe this is a little bit more complicated. I haven't got time to learn it and things like that. So then generally what happens is go to agency number three, hoping that this one was different. But again, same thing happens. Maybe this one doesn't even start off very well. Or maybe they work for 90 days. Maybe they say that they need 90 days to implement all of this and get it running. Same thing happens. 90 days comes around and you're no further forward. So you're like, cool, let's just go back to old school. Let's rely on referrals for a bit. But then you realise, actually, I want to grow the clinic. My associates don't get referrals and generate word of mouth like what I do. So I do need an agency. I need someone else to generate this. But then we just get stuck in this loop forevermore of going round and round and round this circle, staying constantly frustrated for years and many, many different agencies. And Rich, he was in the same boat. When I spoke with him initially, he's one of the guys in our group. He was running this. He wanted to get more people into his chiro clinic, but he'd been through like 8 different agencies in this cycle, in this trap all the time. And it's something which I see and hear constantly. But yet people just keep going round in this cycle for several different reasons. And let's go through those three things. First thing, agencies sell dependency. They sell your monthly retainer. They get paid off of you staying with them. So that should equate to them doing a good job so that you stay for longer. Because the moment you leave is the moment they lose out on money, lose out on clients, things like that. But what I've found is generally people will leave an agency, being as a client, from three things. Those three things are the price does not equal the value or what they get in return. What I mean by this, before we come on to the other two, is let's say you are paying $2,000 per month to an agency. But yet that agency then doesn't provide the value, and that value is bums on seats, people coming in the door, an actual return on what you are getting. Now, the other thing to this is that's $2,000 plus ad spend plus everything else that you got to pay for in the clinic. So there's a lot which we've got to try and get in return to equate to that value, which I understand from an agency's point of view, it's a hard thing to do from that sense. Therefore, from a business sense, from yours and theirs, the agency model just doesn't work. Flat out, it just does not work, because from a business perspective, from your clinic, you need to make money on the front end. Period. That's what we want to do. Otherwise, it's hard work. So therefore, we've got to make sure that the price to value matches. If, for example, the agency charged $100 per month, then it may take you just one person coming in the door to pay for themselves, pay for that agency, and then everyone else that they're getting after pays for it. That's a great thing. But when it's $2,000 or $3,000 a month, the price to value doesn't match. Secondly, it's when you understand that you can do it instead, that you see that you don't need an agency. And this is typically what happens, because then you can see like, oh, it's not actually that hard. How hard can it be? Or you get a new hire on board and they say, no, I can do it for you instead. That's another thing when people leave, is because this again equates to the value, that the value of what the agency doing is not worth it. And finally, the results just flat out suck. Like, if you're not getting enough people in, you're not going to continue paying. Period. That's it. But what do each of these actually mean? But an agency will do different things to make sure that you continue paying them for this. So what I mean by that is, first of all, with the price to value, what they show you when you do these calls and stuff are like complex terms and acronyms. So what I mean by this is that they want to show you how complex it actually is by when you speak to them and they start talking about the CPL, CPEA, CPMs, whatever else it is. They use all these fancy terms and acronyms and talk about the landing page conversion and how they're optimizing for this and that and stuff like that. And it just makes it seem like, oh, actually, we are paying them a lot because there's a lot more into it. So it makes it seem more complex. Therefore, the value in which they must be providing is a lot. However, most of the time it's just copy and paste thing. Which actually leads to the second point. They make it seem complex to get the results, being the leads in their case. Therefore, they make it seem that you could not do it yourself because there's a lot more that goes into it. So you might as well keep paying them. Finally, then, if the results suck, they focus this on the leads instead. So therefore, what they do is they will blame front desk, you, things like that, for not actually converting the leads because they are working the leads instead. They are delivering on what they say, which is getting you leads. Therefore, if you can't do it, then they blame you. Therefore, you can't say the results suck because they're delivering on their leads. Which actually leads to my second point, which is the agency is optimizing wrong. They are optimizing for the wrong thing. They are optimizing for leads. Rather, we should be optimizing for bums on seats. And I get it, because they don't have control of anything that happens after they've delivered the lead. They're not doing the phone calls. They're not converting people into care plans and whatever else it is from that. So they can only control what they control, which is a lead, which I understand. But this is where the issue comes from having an external agency versus an internal person, or yourself, the business, actually handling the marketing. Because if you had this in your clinic instead, you handled the marketing, you could optimize for bums on seats rather than leads. Because a lead, as the agency, as we've already found out, they will then blame the front desk for your fault for not converting. And therefore, we'll optimize for more leads, but we don't want more leads, we want more bums on seats. So let's say we've got two clinics. We've got Clinic A. They are getting leads. They got 100 leads at a cost per lead of $20 per lead. They convert just 10%. So a cost per acquisition of $200, okay? So about $2,000 spend, and they get a few clients from that. They get 10 new patients from that, okay? But what if we then had Clinic B, where they only got 20 leads, but a cost per lead of $120? Huge difference. The conversion rate, though, was 60% and a cost per acquisition exactly the same. They spent a little bit more, so $2,400, but it's roughly about the same. The cost per acquisition is exactly the same. So, which one would you go for? An agency would optimize probably for Clinic A, where the cost per lead is only $20. They're like, this is amazing. As a clinic, you should be optimizing for option B, where the cost per acquisition is exactly the same, but you have less calls to manage. 100 calls and emails and people to follow up with a poor conversion rate, or just 20 calls to call and manage and a much higher conversion rate. Of course, you're going to go option B. The reason for that is your team would be doing far less work. And that's the issue, or that's the thing that they can then focus on, is that they can focus on delivery of clients in the clinic. They're going to spend their time more wisely because the calls they do is going to be much higher conversion rate. So I don't care about the cost per lead. I care about the cost per bum on seat. CPBS. CPBS. Cost per bum on seat. Cost per acquisition. Which actually leads to my third and final issue, which is they're running the wrong model. Let me explain what I mean by this and why they're running the wrong model. Because based upon that data, then they would be optimizing to get more leads in, because they need more leads at the top of this funnel to be able to convert them into the back end, because there's a poor conversion rate from that. Why is it a poor conversion rate though? This is the question that nobody asks. Why do we need to fill the top of the funnel with so many people? It's just because they're running the wrong model. Let me explain. They're running the linear, outdated model. So linear model, which is we have an ad. Then we are going to an opt-in. And that can be a form on Facebook. It can be a landing page, anything like that. Then we're going to chase the lead. Then we're going to get a sale. Okay? This is the old model that we are trying to go ad to sale within a short period of time. But there is a bridge between here and here. And the reason why this is poor converting is just down to one thing, which none of them actually focus on, which is trust. They don't build trust. Trust is the only currency which will convert a stranger into a client. So how do you therefore build trust? We can't by running these types of ads, and I can make a whole other video on this. The ad, first of all, doesn't build trust, but we are trying to compress that over a short period of time. We're trying to build trust. That doesn't work. So there's a better model which we can run, which is flywheel instead. So the flywheel looks like this, where we are going to have this never-ending compounding effect. So first of all, we are going to collect. What I mean by collect is we're just going to collect patient language. We're going to use that patient language in your marketing, because whatever someone says to you, you can just relay back to them, helps them feel understood, which is crucial, because then we can create content from that. That content, we can find out what works, and then we can just amplify what we already know works through paid ads, and therefore the conversion rate will be higher because we've already tested it out. And then what we want to do is to be able to then convert more of those people and retain them longer. By doing that, it will allow us to collect more information. We end up with this never-ending cycle going round and round, which compounds over time because you learn more about your clients and so on and so forth. And also is specific to you. The language that you collect is specific to you and your clinic. That's how you separate yourself from everyone else running the same type of crappy ad. But the whole thing of doing this flywheel is that it creates trust. The trust is the key part. How does it create trust? It's because we help people feel understood. Once someone feels understood, they will travel further, they will seek you out, they will pay you more because they feel like you, and only you, understand them. You get their problems better than they do themselves. That's how we establish trust. Trust does not come from reducing your price. Trust does not come from the most number of Google reviews or anything like that. It's if someone feels like you truly get them, they will put trust in you. And you've got inherent trust being local anyway. We just need to amplify that through your messaging. And that's the key thing. Once you do all of this, once you get rid of those three things which an agency runs, change the whole setup, then that's when you can get some amazing results. Rich, he's a chiropractor, he got 54 new patients in his first month using this system. The thing which I find most weird about this though, is that clinics right now think that by using AI and things like that, it's going to be able to actually help them convert, which I completely disagree with, because we need to establish that trust. We need to build trust, because maybe you've got an agency running your ads and they are not establishing trust. Let me explain why when you click here and show you what you can do instead so you don't use AI and instead build more trust and credibility